you should take seriously any statement that the DPRK makes about its nuclear weapons capability and its intentions. I don't think that means that the DPRK intends to get embroiled in a conflict with the United States, let alone a nuclear conflict. But it did set out a doctrine for nuclear use, which goes beyond previous doctrines and includes certain circumstances in which the missiles with warheads might be used.
Hello and welcome to Frontline for Times Radio with me, Kate Chabot. And today we're talking to a former ambassador to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Alistair Morgan held the post between 2015 and 2018 and has had numerous diplomatic roles in Northeast Asia spanning almost 30 years. Alistair Morgan, welcome to Frontline. Appreciate you making the time for us today. And we are talking in a week when there have been several significant developments in and around North Korea. Let's start with the US sending the first nuclear armed submarine to South Korea in decades, and then North Korea reportedly responding with 2 more short-range ballistic missile tests. How dangerous a period is this?
I think it's a period of high tension. And Kate, thank you very much for having me on your show to discuss these issues. Clearly, the decision to send a submarine that is capable of carrying nuclear weapons is a step in terms of the US demonstrating its deterrence and its commitment to the Republic of Korea. And it follows on from the declaration, the Washington Declaration that was agreed between the Republic of Korea and the US to reassure the Republic of Korea on the availability of deterrence and extended deterrence, including nuclear capability. The North Korean reaction, the DPRK reaction, is, I think, predictable. I think that the level of rhetoric from the DPRK side has gone up. And of course, as you said, the launching of missiles has continued with 2 short-range ballistic missiles following on from an ICBM launch. So there's always the risk of mishap, but certainly a period of high tension.
Yeah, and as you say, the level of rhetoric has gone up, and North Korea cites the submarine visit is consistent within its laws on the circumstances for using nuclear weapons itself. How seriously should we take that statement by the defense minister?
Well, I think you should take seriously any statement that the DPRK makes about its nuclear weapons capability and its intentions. I don't think that means that the DPRK intends to get embroiled in a conflict with the United States, let alone a nuclear conflict. But it did set out a doctrine for nuclear use, which goes beyond previous doctrines and includes certain circumstances in which the missiles with warheads might be used. I think it's deterrence on their side rather than actually a threat that they intend to implement. But it's a serious issue.
In response, the US has said that any nuclear attack by North Korea against the US or its allies will result in the end of that regime. Do you see the situation as escalating further? How do you see the development of this situation?
I don't see the situation de-escalating at the moment. I think that the North Koreans, the DPRK, have made it very clear that they have no intention of eliminating their nuclear arsenal and their ballistic missile program. So I think they will continue to launch missiles, to test missiles. And they've also made it absolutely clear that they have no intention of dialogue with the United States. And they've gone further than before in spelling out why it is that they wish to retain their nuclear capability. So I don't see it de-escalating. I think that I see no prospect of a change in the extended deterrence relationship between the United States and the Republic of Korea and the posture of the Yoon administration in Korea. So I think tensions will remain high. The risk may not come necessarily just from missile launches or the deployment of strategic assets by the United States, which are, of course, well signaled. And although the DPRK may say that they are a prelude to war in one way or another, that's not what they are. The risk may come from other things that actually get out of hand, such as drone flights, which may not be predictable.
So is it more the danger of miscalculation and miscommunication here?
I think that the risk of heightened rhetoric around nuclear capability and the continued development and launch by the DPRK of its ballistic missiles, which could be nuclear armed, is dangerous. I mean, it is a threat to peace and security, as the United Nations says. So I don't want to dismiss that risk, but as I said a little bit before, I think that the primary purpose for the DPRK still is to have that capability as a deterrent. And for it to be a deterrent, they want it to be credible that it could be used. And I think that that is separate from the risk of miscalculation. And the risk of miscalculation is more unpredictable.
North Korea codified a new expansive law last year which declared that its status as a nuclear armed state is irreversible. What nuclear and ballistic missile capability does it actually have at the moment, and how much do we know about it?
Well, we know what we see. We also know information that was available from the period a long time ago now, when the inspectors from the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, were able to look at the facilities in Yongbyon, where the nuclear reprocessing takes place. But there's a lot that we don't know. What we can reasonably assume is that they have strategic missiles, long range or intercontinental range ballistic missiles, which are probably capable of carrying nuclear warheads. They also have developed tactical missiles, shorter range as well as medium range missiles, which could strike in the Republic of Korea or bases in Japan or further out into Guam. And we know that they have models for, because they've displayed them, for a single stage nuclear device, but also for a thermonuclear device. And from the underground testing they have carried out, it's quite plausible that they have developed a thermonuclear device. So the assumption, reasonable assumption, is that the DPRK has a very considerable nuclear capability, but the number of its available warheads is not known, and there is uncertainty about things like the heat shield technology, the extent to which they've really been able to miniaturize warheads to mount on small missiles. But there is no doubt that the capability continues and that they already have a level of nuclear capability alongside a high level of ballistic missile capability.
Whenever I talk to people about this in the past, they've said that it's not necessarily the intention to ever use them, but it's more about North Korea wanting to be taken seriously on the world stage. Do you see it that way?
There are different ways of seeing it, and I place a lot of weight on what North Korea says itself about its own intentions. So I discount some of what they say and some of what they show as well. I think that North Korea wishes to survive. I mean, the Kim Jong-un regime wishes to remain in power in North Korea. It wishes its state to remain in power. And it does wish to have nuclear weapons, which it sees as a deterrent for deterring the United States or anybody else from attacking the country or for eliminating the regime. And I think that's the primary motivation. In terms of their sense of their own status, they wish to be treated as a power of global significance. They've said this very clearly in many statements they've made. Where I'm less clear about their intention is what is their intention really in relation to the Republic of Korea, and to what extent do they want to use the capability that they've developed as a tool of coercion in relation to the Republic of Korea. This is something that the CIA has written about in a recently published assessment.
And what do you think their intention is towards the Republic of Korea?
I don't think myself at the moment that they have any immediate intention of seeking forceful reunification with the Republic of Korea. I'm pretty sure that they would never rule that out as an object because it's sort of intrinsic in the ideology of the North Korean regime and its sense of its own legitimacy. I'm sure it wishes that the DPRK and its leaders want to put pressure on the Republic of Korea, and they wish to undermine and discredit as much as they can any conservative administration in the Republic of Korea. And if they can, they would try to get change in behavior by the Republic of Korea in terms of the statements ministers make, the exercising by Republic of Korean troops with the United States, the deployment of strategic assets, and all these elements that they're objecting to vociferously at the moment.
And you throw into the whole situation the news now that a US soldier has fled across the demilitarized zone from South to North Korea and is in custody in North Korea. Do you know any more about what has happened to this Private Travis T. King?
No, I have no information that isn't already in the press. I have no contacts in North Korea or indeed at the moment with the US authorities to find out more.
You will remember very well the case of the American student Otto Warmba, who went into a coma and died after he'd been detained in North Korea. What do you think the regime, based on its track record, is likely to do with Private King?
I think there are various things that they could do. You're quite right that I remember the Otto Warmba case very well. I was in North Korea at the time. One of my team in the embassy had the unpleasant task of actually attending the show trial for Otto Warmba. I watched it on television with repugnance, and I spent a lot of time talking to the Swedish ambassador in the DPRK, who had a role in trying to get access to Warmba after he was sentenced as protecting power for the United States. Of course, at the moment, that mission is now closed, as are all European missions in the DPRK, all European embassies, because of the border restrictions the DPRK has put in place over COVID. If you look back at past cases of illegal entry into the DPRK and the DPRK's handling of that, there are cases where the DPRK has processed the entry fairly quickly within a month or so, and has expelled or released the person from their custody in the country. And there are cases where somebody has been detained, charged, and sentenced to a lengthy sentence. And I can't say what is likely to happen in the case of Private Travis King. I'm sure to start off with that the DPRK will be questioning Travis King and finding out what they can from him about what he knows, as well as about his motivation and entry into the DPRK. How they decide to proceed after that, I think, won't depend just on what he says, but on what they choose to do in current circumstances.
And how great a prize, though, is a US soldier to the North Koreans?
I think, in terms of an information source, from what's appeared in the press, Private King is not a great prize. In terms of leverage, he is a prize because of the commitment by the US government, which is very similar to the commitment of the British government and other governments, to seek to get the repatriation of anybody detained in the DPRK. Or really, they're concerned for the well-being of American citizens overseas, regardless of how they came to be in the situation they're in. In the past, the DPRK has been able to use the holding of US citizens as a way of obtaining high-level visits to the DPRK and discussions around those visits. Whether they're interested in that at the moment is a difficult question, because the US has in any case been saying that it's very willing to have talks with the DPRK, no condition talks, though not at the same level as President Trump, but not at presidential level, but to have talks. And it's the DPRK that has been declining the overtures and has recently put out a new statement saying that there's really no point in dialogue with the United States, because there's nothing the United States can do that will reassure them in relation to their own need to have nuclear weapons. Because even if the US were to remove its forces from South Korea or to end exercises, it can still send forces from elsewhere and has assets which it can deploy. So it's not, from my point of view, as I see it, in any way an assured conclusion that the DPRK would bite at an invitation to have high-level dialogue. But I hope that they will release Private King, and I'm sure that well, my assumption is that the US would be ready to send someone to talk about that if that was going to help achieve it. But I don't know any more than is in the newspapers or on the radio.
Yeah, you've previously talked to Frontline about North Korea's support of Russia and its supply of weapons in the war in Ukraine. Is there any more evidence of that?
I've not seen any new evidence of weapons in the field. There were statements, I think, since I last spoke to you from the US, suggesting that the exchanges had been with the Wagner Group, and that is, obviously the status of the Wagner Group is now somewhat changed. The US also provided imagery to the United Nations panel of experts, of which I was formerly a coordinator, of a DPRK train going to Russia which their intelligence report or their declassified report to the panel suggested was how arms had been transferred. The panel reproduced that in its report, but noted that they were external images of the train, and they didn't contain images of the cargo on the train. In terms of the DPRK's political alignment with Russia and with China, it remains as firm as ever. And in terms of the actions of Russia and China in the UN Security Council, they, as we saw in the debate over the latest Hwasong 18 ICBM launch, Russia and China prevented the Security Council from making a declaration or taking any action.
Call me a cynic, but it would certainly serve Russia's interest for the US to be preoccupied at the moment with a crisis emerging, and indeed a nuclear one elsewhere in the world that we're talking about now.
I think it's a complication for the US in relation to its dealings with the DPRK. I'm not party to any discussions in Washington, but I'm sure that the first objective is to find out more information about the status of Private King and his well-being. But I'm sure that there will be discussions about how they could engage with the DPRK. From Russia's point of view, I suppose that anything that embarrasses the United States or is a complication for the United States is welcome. But I can't see the run across the joint security zone by Private King really altering the nature of the NATO position and the US position in relation to the Russian appalling and illegal war in Ukraine.
And if it is North Korea's intention here to test the resolve of the US to protect South Korea, what do you think the best response from the US would be? Would it be business as usual? Because there is the danger of escalation, isn't there?
I mean, I'm sure that among the points that the United States will be considering is what statements it makes, not just about the case of Private King, but how other statements might relate to that. I'm not party to the discussions, and I don't know how they would come out, but I would not expect the fundamental stance of the United States in terms of its extended deterrence commitment to the Republic of Korea, joint exercising in the Republic of Korea, the deployment of assets to change. And really, in terms of statements, the United States' statements have been in response to actions by the DPRK and statements by the DPRK. So I don't think that the United States has been leading hostile rhetoric. I mean, you're quite right that the United States has said that were the DPRK to use nuclear weapons, that would be the end of the DPRK regime. It's said that a number of times now, and I think it's very important in terms of deterrence that there is a clear position like that. And clearly the choice of that statement reflects, I say clearly, I assume it reflects a view by the US on what it is that they think matters to the leadership in the DPRK, which is its own survival.
How were relations between the West when you were British ambassador to the DPRK, and how would you judge them now?
The relations varied over time when I was there, including relations with the US, but with other countries as well. I was there in 2016 and 2017, when there was the build-up of launching, a program of launching that is relatively small scale in comparison with what has happened in recent months, but alarming enough, and indeed a series of nuclear tests. And of course, we haven't seen a nuclear test since 2017, though there might be a further test. In 2017, the DPRK portrayal of the United States was a conventional DPRK portrayal of the United States as a hostile power and as the enemy, if you like, key enemy. In 2018, that was changed, and the propaganda posters against the United States were removed. The abuse of the United States, including personal abuse of President Trump or other US leaders, was removed, and there was an approach towards the United States, which we saw in the Singapore summit in 2018, and then the failed Hanoi summit in 2019. I mean, I think at that time the DPRK did wish to reset. Kim Jong-un wished to reset relations with the United States. Whether he was ever serious about eliminating nuclear weapons is a separate question. And I'm sure if he could, he would have sought to reset and normalize relations with the United States without eliminating nuclear weapons. I think he would still be happy to do that. But I think there is nothing to suggest that it's a prospect that's on offer. I mean, I think that the rhetoric that the DPRK is using against the United States has gone back to what it was in 2017. And the DPRK is more explicit than ever that it will not eliminate its nuclear weapons. It says that the secret to changing the nature of the relationship and the risks and the threat is for the US to change, not for the DPRK to change, and for the US to eliminate what the DPRK calls its hostile policy. And as I was saying before, I mean, the hostile policy, as the DPRK frames it, is something of variable and potentially infinite extent. And at the moment, they're saying that as long as the United States exists, they've referred to US imperialism in the past, and the US has capabilities that it could deploy in relation to the DPRK, then the hostile policy continues to exist. So there's no prospect being held out there in any change. And I certainly see no willingness, not just in the United States, but in the Republic of Korea, in the United Kingdom, in France or elsewhere, to any change that would recognize the DPRK as a nuclear weapon state in NPT terms, despite the fact that clearly the DPRK has obtained ballistic missile and nuclear weapons capability in contravention of international law, because it's in contravention of the UN sanctions resolutions.
Alistair Morgan, it's been great talking to you. Thank you very much for giving us the time today on Frontline.
Thanks very much, Kate.
You've been watching Frontline for Times Radio. My thanks to Louis Sykes, our producer. To support the work of Frontline, hit the subscribe button. You can also listen to Times Radio throughout the day or read it at times.co.uk. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.